In the early days, hard was, ooh, stop. This isn't good. This is a warning sign. This is a red flag. I should slow down, or I should stop, I should pivot. But the more I think about it as a competitive landscape, as I'm clear on what this path is supposed to look like, and these rocks and these dragons are things that I'm going to have to slay along the way to get the princess or get the treasure, I get happier about the harder it is because I know that no one else will follow. If you want to earn respect, you earn it through work. And sometimes that's working on yourself, that's sometimes working on a skill, working on a product, but it is all through work, through effort. It won't get harder. Like, this is the hardest part. And so if you can just make it through this, everything else is downhill. It's not that the things that the dragons are going to slay aren't going to get bigger. They are. But you become so much more equipped to slay them back. And you have so many more allies. You have people in the stands cheering for you. You have the audience. You have all of these other things that are behind you. But in the beginning, it's just you with a stick against a bear. And arguably that fight is a harder fight to win than beating a dragon when you have a nuclear bomb and 6 nations behind you. And so it's not even like the size of the hardship, it's just also the resources and how few of them you have, and how so much of the beginning is literally burning the one thing you have, which is time, because you have no leverage. You don't have the money to pay other people to help you. You don't have the resources to go like get someone no one can learn it for you. It's like there's a lot of the things that we care about a lot, like no one can work out for you. It doesn't matter how much money you have. No one can learn skills for you. Expecting it to be easy is what makes it much harder than it ever is. If an expert goes into any setting that they're expert in, they have so many faster feedback loops that reward them in the moment before the ultimate outcome. So if you're a master video editor, there's so many things that you can do that while editing, you make one change and then it looks right. You have a positive feedback loop. And so I think when you're on the start path, you can't look at the outcome as the only positive, because you will never make it. And so the positive frame that I've always used is, sure, you can have the external ones of like, I like thinking about my first videos had like 13 views. And I'm like, well, if I had an audience of 13 people, I used to spend years pitching, weight loss stuff to rooms of 13, and that was fine. And so thinking about that way was helpful. But the most helpful frame was thinking about who I was becoming as the asset that I was building. So in real time, whenever I finished a long day's work, I was becoming more like the type of person who could work for 5 years without reward. And that would be part of the story I would someday tell. And so some of the biggest reinforcers I've had in my life has been future casting the story that I would tell about the shitty period that I was in. And so like no one ever tells stories about the hero who made it all happen immediately and had no hardships. No one cares, right? Like, okay, you were born to a billionaire. Is there a story there? Not really. But everyone loves the story because we can see ourselves in the character and how much we hope to be like them. And it's the being like them, not the having what they have, that we usually like. And so reframing ourselves as the hero of that narrative in my harder times was what really got me through that, and thinking, I will tell this story someday. The big meta skills come from those, what we call virtues, but virtues are just behaviors, which can be trained. I always came from the perspective of like, I want to do the formula and then live my life how I want to live. And if that means that sometimes I drink more and sometimes I drink less, or sometimes I work out more and sometimes I work out less, sometimes I eat dessert, sometimes I eat really small desserts, that's fine. And so it's just like, what are the actual things that matter? And if you look at, and I know you have a lot of wealthy friends, like people, the way people work, the routines that they have are so varied, which to me means that they don't matter. Because if there were something that absolutely has to be done, then it has to go down to first principles of, okay, in order for people to find out about your stuff, you have to let them know. Great. So you have to advertise it in some way for people to find out about it, to buy, period. I try to have as few rules as possible to give myself as much latitude to live my life. Some people might look at me and say that, oh, Alex is really disciplined, but I actually really do what I want to do every day. And it just so happens to be work that is productive and makes money. But that statement that you made earlier that people, what you said? You said people do
what makes them feel the way they want to feel.
Right. And then you said, well, oh, it's because it's not making them feel the way they want to feel. And my only addition to that would have just been yet. Just yet. If you can give the thing the opportunity to reinforce its own behavior, then it goes from external to internal. Where like video editors, for example, like there's people who love, I mean, we're going to film school, right? In the beginning, you suck at editing film, but then you like make the letters appear and you get instant feedback and you're like, whoa, that was rewarding, right? And then you do it again and then you learn another technique and another technique, another technique. And so then the behavior itself becomes rewarding and you begin to like work, right? You begin liking your work. And so I think it really is that just getting over the hump in the beginning of knocking on 1,000 doors rather than 5, and realizing that it would make sense that you would suck because you haven't done it before. But knowing that if other people have done it too, that there is a reward that will eventually come and it will reinforce me just like it has every other human before me who has done this. And I think just like one of my core, assumptions, as I like to say, is that if somebody else can do these behaviors, I can do these behaviors and get the same outcome. Barring external environments or timing and things like that. But, assuming that those are the same, like door knocking to sell solar today is the same as it was last year. And if I see somebody who's number 1 in solar and I do the same behaviors as them, I will likely get an outcome that is decent.
I'll walk you through a 3-step framework that has been unbelievably valuable to me. And this is from Dr. Kashi. Logic, evidence, utility. Logic is, what does that mean? So you have demons. Okay, what does that mean? Define it in terms of behavior. What does that mean? Okay, got it. Now, how do you know that? Evidence. So you say, I have demons. We unpack that and it means that for you self-sabotage, which again, define that. Okay, it means that I show up late to meetings after I get into a job after 2 months of being on time. Okay, so after 2 months of being on time, you start being late to stuff. That we translated from I have demons to I self-sabotage, to that is the behavior that occurs. Got it. Now, I would say, how do you know that? Now, a lot of times people are like, well, it's happened. But when you actually look at it, you're like, it happened 3 times over in my last job. Okay. Is it really a problem as you define it, or it happened in those 3 occurrences? Okay, got it. So now now most times people are like, I don't have any data. And you're like, okay, so then this is basically made up. And when I say made up, I'm not saying it's like you are a liar. I'm just saying that humans work in narratives. And a lot of times we add narratives, stories, to things that don't actually mean anything. But it's convenient and it's fun and we like talking about it, but it doesn't mean it's true. And so then you move to the third one, which is, and so what? Utility. Who cares? Why does this matter? And so then you say, okay, well, this matters because it decreases the likelihood that I will be able to retain future employment. Fine. Then what do we do about it? And so you can walk through things that you have struggled with in the past with simply saying, let me define this in terms of behavior. What evidence do I have that this is actually true and that I've defined it based on these things? And who cares? Every single human being on earth has gone through their version of 10 out of 10 pain, which normalizes pain across the spectrum, which then leaves you with the only natural thing you have left, which is, what do I do now? And if you wanted to design the perfect version of you, the savage competitor, the gladiator at the end of the life that has the scars and the scraggly beard, but has been through shit, and has done things, and has realized their potential, what would you do to maximize the likelihood that you become that savage hero? Would you give them the padded lifestyle? Would you give them the immediate win? Would you give them the easy life? Probably not. You would probably put you through what you're going through right now to become that person. And so why would you resent the chapter you're in because it's a requirement for becoming who you say you want to be?